So I have another little story I have to tell you. And this is one that I don't particularly like to share because the other one about Zaki's birthday, somebody else did. This is something that I did. Now, Donnie and I, when we were in California, we banked with a bank that dealt with just contractors. And so after we'd been with them for about 6 months, I got a call from the vice president of the bank. She was a woman, and she says, Bonnie, we'd like to invite you to a Nordstrom's bus trip. And I said, okay. And she said, what we do is we get on a bus, it's a chartered bus, and we play raffle games and have a really nice time. And we drive up to San Francisco to Union Square, and we shop at Nordstrom's, and then we come back, and it's just an all-day shopping trip. And I said, oh, that sounds great. And so I went, and I met all these great people, and we shopped all day, and it was just a wonderful time. And then 6 months later, I got invited again. And so I went to Nordstrom's, and we shopped all day and had a great time and met all these great people and saw some people that I'd met 6 months before that. And then 6 months later, I made the list again. And I got invited, and we went to Nordstrom's, and we shopped all day, and it was just too much fun. So then I get a phone call and from a friend, and she says, oh, going on the Nordy's bus trip this Saturday? And I said, no. And she said, oh, were you not invited? And I said, yeah, I didn't know about it. And she goes, oh, we'll miss you. So I began to think about how, with construction, there are times of feast and there are times of famine. And so this was a kind of a famine financial time for Donnie and I started to think, okay, I get it. I get it. You make the list by the balance in your checking account. Well, isn't that just wonderful? And so I picked up the phone and I called Donnie and I told him what the bank had done to us. And Donnie, who I can sometimes easily influence, had it all figured out. Let's change banks. So I brewed up a real big offense, and the next day I was talking to my mentor. Not one that you really want to have a conversation with when you're brewing up a good offense. So I proceeded to tell her what the bank had done to me, and she said, honey, do you pray the Lord's Prayer? Yes. And she said, and do you pray the part, lead me not into temptation? Yes. And she said, well, honey, aren't you and Donnie struggling financially right now? Yes. And she said, well, can you afford to go shopping at Nordstrom's? No. Well, so you would go and not spend any money? No. She said, well, honey, how would you pay for it? Credit card. She says, well, honey, maybe it has nothing to do with the balance in your checking account. Maybe it is God answering your prayer, leading you not into temptation, putting you in a position where you're spending money that you don't have to spend. And I said, well, I never really looked at it like that. And then I began to think, how many other times have I been left off of a list and was sure I took a direct hit by a person, but really it was God moving on my behalf?